All right, we're back, and I see something that is just, to me, so fascinating, I had to share it with you. Notice we're here looking at the Route 66 sign from 1926 to 1930. This is what the road looks like. The red route is actually Route 66, and what is fascinating about that to me is that the road makes hard left, hard right, hard left, and hard right. Now, you might say, well, that's normal because roads do that all the time. But you have to remember, in 1930, this was the largest superhighway in the world. And so here we are on the biggest superhighway in a country that's emerging as the most powerful nation in the world, and the largest roadway on it turns in zigzags like it does in a neighborhood today. So I want to take you on a little bit of this journey just to show you what the major artery between St. Louis and Chicago looked like. So you have to remember, in 1930, we're talking about two of the biggest cities in the United States, and this is the traffic route that they had to follow. So just get an idea that this is where tractor trailers, there weren't many of those. All the cars, well, the transport trucks, yeah, all of the big cars, this is what they traveled along in 1926 to roughly 32. Look at how narrow this road is, and this is it, folks. We are on America's superhighway, which ran through these obscene little farms and had to turn and zigzag left and right. And the only reason I can think for it, I mean, when you look at what we're doing, which is just zigzags left and right, the only thing that makes any sense at all is that a farmer owned a plot of land and they didn't have this whole eminent domain thing down. So what they ended up doing was they just sort of worked around and paved America's superhighway in a zigzag pattern around every farmer's field that was in the way. It took years until they actually started sort of smoothing out the rough edges of the road. And to me, it's kind of insane to see how small the road is, how hard it turns left and right, and it was all done just because of property rights here and there. And of course, the road itself today is just, I mean, it's both beautiful and horrible at the same time. I mean, probably not often was a 63 Corvette ever thrown on a road like this, but I had to do it just to make a point of how different things were in 1926, basically prior to World War II. We drove on little tiny roads, and of course it was Dwight D. Eisenhower who went over in World War II, saw the Autobahns, saw what Germany had done in terms of transportation and getting cars, you know, from coast to coast in a hurry. And of course, that prompted him to get rid of all these little roads and create America's superhighway. But it is just fascinating to see really what we drove on. And you figure 1926, my dad was born in 1926, so for me this isn't exactly ancient history, it's fairly almost recent history. Ray, what year was your father born?
1904.
1904, so where was your father in 1926?
He was on his way to California.
And what road was he taking?
Route 66.
So there's a good chance that your father took this very road, yeah, that we are beating the car up on.
He probably would have come down Route 51 from Rockford and hit 66 somewhere down in this area and then into St. Louis. Yeah, and probably very good chance. Very good chance.
So you figure 1926 was roughly 90 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so 90 years ago, and on into the future, your dad took this little tiny road and crossed America in it.
He did.
Yeah.
In a Model T.
In a Model T.
In a Model T.
So, top speed on a Model T?
At 45, maybe?
Let me tell you, 45 in a Model T is scary. I've done 35 in a Model T, and I thought I was going to die. So 45 in a Model T.
Yeah.
I mean, your father was a brave man if he actually drove that fast.
I wouldn't think. Well, you have to understand too. I'm assuming that when this road was paved, it was a lot smoother than this right now.
Well,
I mean, they said this was the super highway.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't wide, I'm sure that I'm not saying he went 45. I don't know what a Model T would do, but I'm assuming this was a pretty high-speed stretch.
Yeah. I'm doing about 21 miles an hour on this road, and quite honestly, that's a little too fast.
Yeah.
We should be going slower.
Yep.
So folks, just a journey into the past. And I mean, I've seen a lot of Route 66, but it wasn't until today when I saw the zigzags, just the absolute insane nature of this road, that I kind of got just how far we've come as a nation in 90 years. I mean, the world has changed by centuries in 90 years. Next stop, St. Louis.
Yeah, that's a cool segment.